Kale pressed himself against the crumbling wall as plasma fires scorched the air above his head. At 19, he was the youngest field operative the Interstellar Humanitarian Corps had ever deployed, and right now, he was questioning every decision that had led him to this war-torn settlement on Viridian Prime. The village was supposed to be evacuated. Intel said it was clear. Intel was wrong. Through the smoke, he saw her, a girl, maybe 13 or 14 in human years, trapped beneath a collapsed beam. Her skin shimmered with an opalescent quality unique to Viridians, and her large amber eyes were wide with terror. Without thinking, Kale sprinted across the exposed courtyard. "I've got you," he said, straining against the debris. She whimpered something in her native tongue, musical and urgent. When the beam finally shifted, she stumbled into his arms, her body trembling like a caught bird. They ran together through the maze of destroyed buildings. She was light, almost ethereal, and clung to him with surprising strength. In his small transport pod, safely away from the bombardment, she finally spoke in halting common tongue. "You saved Nissa." She touched her chest. "Kale." He managed a reassuring smile despite his racing heart. "You're safe now." Over the following weeks at the refugee camp, Nissa rarely left his side. Her people were dying from a disease the warring factions had unleashed, and she'd lost everyone. Kale found himself drawn to her quiet intelligence, the way she absorbed languages and customs like a sponge, the gentle humor that emerged as she healed. They would sit under Viridian Prime's twin moons, and she'd tell him stories of her world before the war, crystalline cities that sang with the wind, forests where trees communicated through light. He taught her chess and found she beat him within a week. She taught him to read Viridian star charts, her hand guiding his across glowing constellations. On the night before his deployment ended, they sat on their usual overlook. Nissa had been unusually quiet, her luminescent skin pulsing with emotions she struggled to name. "Kale," she said softly, taking his hand. Her touch sent an unexpected warmth through him. "In my culture, when someone saves your life, a debt is owed. But you gave me more than life. You gave me hope when I had forgotten its taste. You don't owe me anything, Nissa." She shook her head, her expression solemn beyond her years. "When I come of age, when I complete my ascension, I swear by the eternal light that binds all things, I will marry you, Kale of Earth. This is my choice, my promise." He started to protest, to explain the complexities, the years between them, the worlds that separated their kinds. But something in her amber eyes, ancient and knowing despite her youth, stopped him. "I'll remember," he whispered instead, not quite believing it could ever be real. He should have known that Viridians never made promises they couldn't keep. 7 years passed like water through fingers. Kale rose through diplomatic ranks faster than anyone expected, earning a reputation as the man who could negotiate peace where others found only conflict. He learned 12 languages, brokered treaties on hostile worlds, and carried Nissa's promise like a secret warmth against his heart. He told himself it had been a child's gratitude, nothing more. Yet he never married, never let anyone truly close. His colleagues whispered about the young ambassador's mysterious reserve, the way his eyes sometimes grew distant during negotiations, as if remembering another world. Viridian Prime had stabilized after the war, transforming from a refugee crisis into something unexpected, a neutral ground where hostile species found common cause. Their unique ability to sense emotional truth made them invaluable mediators. And at the center of this renaissance was someone called the Luminary, a leader who'd unified the fractured clans with unprecedented vision. Kale didn't know it was Nissa until the invitation arrived. The holographic message materialized in his quarters aboard the diplomatic vessel Meridian. A woman stood before him, breathtaking and impossible. Her opalescent skin now glowed with patterns of power, swirling symbols that marked her rank and wisdom. Her amber eyes were the same, but deepened with experience and unmistakable purpose. "Kale of Earth," she spoke with a voice that resonated like crystal bells. "I have reached my ascension. The girl you saved stands before you now as Nissa, luminary of the 7 clans, speaker of the eternal light. I have not forgotten my promise. If you still honor it, Come to Viridian Prime at the next lunar convergence. Come as yourself, not as a diplomat. The choice is yours, but know this, my promise remains unbroken. His hands shook as the message ended. The next morning, he submitted his request for personal leave. His superior, Ambassador Taurus, studied him with knowing eyes. This is about Viridian Prime, isn't it? About her? You know. Everyone in intelligence knows the luminary has some connection to you. We've been waiting to see what you do. Taurus leaned back. Kale, she's not just a leader. She's become the most powerful political figure in 3 sectors. Whatever this is between you, it's going to have consequences. I saved a frightened girl once, Kale said quietly. She made me promise to remember her. How can I not go? Taurus nodded slowly. Then go. But be careful. Love and politics make dangerous bedfellows, and you're walking into both. The journey to Viridian Prime took 3 weeks. Kale spent the time reviewing everything he could find about Nissa's rise to power, how she'd united warring clans through a combination of empathic ability and strategic brilliance, how she'd transformed their world into a hub of interstellar commerce and diplomacy. But nothing prepared him for what awaited when his transport finally descended through Viridian Prime's violet atmosphere. The crystalline palace rose like frozen music from the planet's surface, its towers humming with energy that made Kale's bones vibrate in harmony. Thousands had gathered for the lunar convergence, a religious festival that happened once every 7 years. Nissa waited for him in the Garden of Eternal Light, alone except for the bioluminescent flowers that pulsed with her heartbeat. She wore traditional ceremonial robes that seemed woven from starlight itself, but when she saw him, her formal composure shattered. Kale. His name on her lips was prayer and promise combined. They stood apart for a breathless moment, then closed the distance. His hands found her waist, and the touch ignited something electric between them. Her skin was warm beneath his fingers, and up close, he could see the patterns of light dancing across her features. Responsive, alive, beautiful. You came, she whispered, her amber eyes searching his face with an intensity that stole his breath. I promised I'd remember. How could I forget you? She laughed, the sound catching in her throat. I've grown. You have. He traced the luminescent patterns on her cheek with his thumb. You're magnificent, Nissa. Everything I imagined and nothing I could have prepared for. Her hand covered his, pressing it against her face. The council thinks I'm foolish. They say you're an outsider, that binding myself to you undermines my authority. They don't understand. She broke off, emotions rippling across her skin in waves of color. Understand what? That you're the only person in the universe who knew me before I became this. Before the power, the politics, the expectations. She stepped closer, her body fitting against his with startling naturalness. With you, I can still be the girl who learned chess and lost every time. You didn't lose every time, he murmured against her hair. Just the first 3 days. Her laughter vibrated through both of them. Then she pulled back enough to meet his eyes, her expression turning serious. If we do this, if you honor this promise, it won't be simple. My bonding ceremony is a public declaration. You'll be bound to me not just as a husband, but as my political partner. Every decision I make will reflect on you. Every enemy I have will become yours. Nissa. She pressed her fingers to his lips. And there's something else you must know about Viridian bonding. It's not just ceremonial. When we join, our nervous systems will synchronize. You'll feel what I feel. Know what I know. There's no hiding, no privacy, no walls between souls. The implications staggered him. Complete intimacy, transparency beyond anything humans experienced. That doesn't frighten you? It terrifies me, she admitted, her skin flickering with anxious gold. But I've waited 7 years to be terrified with you. Kale cupped her face in both hands, drawing her close until their foreheads touched. Then let's be terrified together. The ceremony took place under the convergence of 3 moons, attended by representatives from 40 worlds. Kale stood in the circle of unity, acutely aware of thousands of eyes upon him, most skeptical, some hostile, a few cautiously hopeful. Nissa entered in traditional white robes that shifted with her emotions, barefoot as custom demanded. The council of elders surrounded them, their faces impassive masks that barely concealed their displeasure. But Nissa moved with absolute certainty, her eyes never leaving Kale's. The High Elder spoke in ceremonial Viridian, words that translator devices rendered cold and formal. The luminary brings an outsider to the sacred bonding. This is unprecedented. Does she understand the consequences? I understand perfectly, Nissa replied, her voice carrying across the vast chamber. This man saved my life when I had nothing. Now I give him everything, my heart, my body, my power, my world. A murmur rippled through the crowd. The High Elder frowned. And if he proves unworthy? If this bond endangers our people? Nissa's skin flared brilliant white. Then I will have chosen poorly, and face those consequences. But I have seen his soul. I trust him as I trust the light itself. The ritual required them to stand palm to palm, skin to skin. When Kale pressed his hands against Nissa's, the energy hit him like lightning. Her consciousness flooded into his 7 years of loneliness and duty, of remembering a kind young man who'd treated her like a person when she'd felt like nothing. He felt her love, her fear, her absolute certainty that this was right. And she felt him. His years of yearning, his determination to be worthy of her impossible promise, his overwhelming desire not just to protect her but to understand her, to be her equal in every way that mattered. The physical connection intensified. Her hands slid up his arms, and everywhere she touched, his skin came alive. The ceremonial robes became barriers they both needed gone. The elders spoke ancient words, but Kale barely heard them over the rushing of his blood, the singing of their synchronized heartbeats. The final union, Nissa whispered against his mouth, requires complete trust. What followed was both sacred ritual and profound intimacy. As their bodies joined, so did their minds, their souls. Kale experienced Nissa's pleasure as his own and felt her receiving his in turn, a feedback loop of sensation and emotion that transcended anything he'd known. Every touch, every movement rippled through both of them, building toward something that felt cosmic in its intensity. When they finally collapsed together, still connected, still experiencing each other's racing thoughts and thundering hearts, the chamber erupted in crystalline song. Even the skeptical elders couldn't deny the authenticity of their bond. It blazed between them, visible to anyone with empathic sense. Now, Nissa breathed against his neck. Comes the hard part. That was the easy part? Her laughter sparkled through their shared consciousness. We've made promises. Now we must keep them. 3 days after the bonding, the crisis arrived. The Kethran Empire, aggressive, expansionist, and brutally efficient, sent their ambassador with an ultimatum. Viridian Prime would grant them exclusive trading rights and military access, or face economic blockade and potential invasion. They'd been planning this for months, waiting for a moment of perceived weakness. Nissa's bonding to an outsider was exactly the opening they'd hoped for. The council convened in emergency session. Through their bond, Kale felt Nissa's fury and frustration as elder after elder demanded she annul the marriage, prove her commitment to Viridian interests over personal desires. They're using me against you, Kale said quietly in their private chambers. If you end this, they lose their leverage. Nissa turned on him, her skin flashing crimson. You think I'd break our bond to satisfy political pressure? You understand nothing about Viridian promises or about me. I understand you're willing to risk your world for one person. That's not strategy, Nissa. That's love, she finished. Yes. And through our bond, you know I mean it. She took his hands. But you're wrong about the strategy. I'm not risking my world. I'm betting everything that together, we can save it. She was right. Through their connection, Kale suddenly understood her plan. Audacious, terrifying, and brilliant. You want to offer them something they can't refuse, he said slowly. But not submission. Alliance. The Kethrans respect strength and profit above all else. We give them both. Her eyes gleamed. You're the youngest ambassador in the Interstellar Coalition's history. I'm the luminary who unified 7 clans. Together, we propose a three-way alliance: Viridian Prime, Earth Coalition, and Kethran Empire. Free trade, mutual defense, shared technology. They'll never trust it. They will when they see our bond. Viridians can't lie through empathic connection. You're human, I'm Viridian. Our marriage proves such unions can work. We become living proof that different species can find common ground. The negotiation took 18 hours. Kale and Nissa worked in perfect synchronization, their bond allowing them to communicate silently, to present a united front impossible to fracture. When the Kethrans probed for weakness, they found two minds thinking as one. When the treaty was finally signed, it reshaped the political landscape of three sectors. Later, alone in their chambers overlooking the crystalline gardens, Nissa curled against Kale's chest. Through their bond, contentment flowed both ways. "They still doubt us," she murmured. "Half my council thinks you manipulated me. Half your colleagues think I seduced you for political gain. Let them doubt." Kale kissed her forehead. "We know the truth. That a frightened girl made a promise to a kind boy? That two people found something worth fighting for." He felt her smile against his skin. "And that sometimes, the most personal choices have the most universal consequences." Outside, three moons aligned perfectly, a convergence that would echo through history as the moment everything changed. Because one promise, kept against all odds, had united the stars.